MIP at the NAACP 109th Annual Convention. Two very esteemed guests with me, two of my brothers who are both on with me on a weekly basis, and I'm thankful and honored that they take the time. I'm going to let one to my right, though, tell you in his own words what he heard from the president and CEO of the NAACP today and how it impacted him.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mark, and to my brother, Derrick Johnson, our president. What I heard was a teacher. And in a moment that we are dealing with these problems, folk need an analysis, not just an argument, not just who we're against. Folk have to have a deep analysis in order to take history, take action. They have to be reminded this is not new. That's one of the worst things. They have to hear what they have done, but they also have to be challenged not to live off the past. They have to be called out of the foolishness that sometimes we can get in when we're under fire. You know, we start turning in on other. So what I saw Derrick do something that one of the best closing arguments, maybe an open argument, but a closing argument, because he was saying, listen, we stop here and we go offensive. And if you want to go offensive, defeat hate, vote, clear, right? And then to say, we're not going to have these foolish battles. You know, it was a privilege. I've got people texting me saying they heard him talking about, you know, that we're the Poor People's Campaign and being connected and how we all do our battles because we all come out of this root. This is the root right here. I got my training right here as a young, you know, high school president and all. But that level of, our people don't get that often. Teaching and clarity and a focused agenda. You know, sometimes we get aroused. But a guy told me, don't ever arouse me and not tell me what to do.
Oh, Lord.
Now, I don't know where y'all go with that, but I'm telling you what the guy told me. So his story, telling it, giving people hope, but then saying, here's what we have to do. Here's what our purpose is. And every organization doesn't have the same purpose, but we ought to have the same goal: social justice, equality, you know, for everybody.
Derrick, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, the Poor People's Campaign, former state conference president of the NAACP in North Carolina, still on the national board. Derrick Johnson, President CEO. How you feel about your address today and how it was received by the crowd?
You know, I'm always critical of when I speak. I hope the crowd took the understanding that power comes from within and from the local. It is not given from top down. The NAACP is a bottom-up organization. If we want to address the current political landscape, there's a simple roadmap. Be engaged for this midterm elections. Make sure we have an accurate count during the census process. Make sure that we stand up strong for presidential elections as we hold people accountable for redistricting process that will allow us to elect candidates of our choice and come back around to the midterm elections. It is important for us not to get sidetracked by the cuteness of the movement and get real about the reality of the movement. There is no movement in a democracy if we're not leveraging our currency, which is our vote.
No, that's absolutely true. You talked about unity with the Poor People's Campaign. We can't afford disunity. Not that there ever was, but you know, people like to do things and try to fit. We all can work together in solidarity. But you did some other things too, brother. I mean, you called out some history and some names, and pointed out some of the missteps of this great organization. You called a couple names. I had to say, you know, people didn't know that. But some folks listening to my show know what you're talking about. And I mean, where was that coming from? I wasn't even quite ready for that, but it was necessary.
But Dr. Barber and I, if we fast forward 50 years from now, there will be some things that we made mistakes on. And we have to learn from that and not cover it up and only celebrate the good stuff, because if you celebrate the candy without the ingredients, you only get one taste of it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
And I think what's so powerful about teaching, and I'm a preacher, Dadashi always comes before proclamation. If you don't teach, even Jesus said, go there and teach, right? And so people need to know our history isn't perfect. We have to understand that sometimes, as I love when Derrick said, if I cannot make the mistake that other people made by listening and learning, that's a good thing. But he did it with such love for the organization. It wasn't badgering and belittling. It was saying, here we are as an organization, but imperfect as we have been, we have still helped push this nation toward being a more perfect union. And I want to say one thing about the this business of working. You know, when Derrick opened, he said, if we ever think of ourselves as monolithic, it's over. I was glad that he mentioned all our folk are more nonviolent. We have a broad history, and it took all of that. You know, I was reading Ida B. Wells. I sent him a text yesterday. I said, this is Ida B. Wells' birthday. Today, 1862, July 16th.
Wow.
Ida B. Wells called out racism. Ida B. Wells also said, a Winchester ought to be a welcome addition to every home.
She went everywhere with a gun in her purse.
Yeah,
Let's be
she
clear.
did. She did.
You know, Ida B. Wells, Holly Springs, Mississippi. She got engaged because she was an activist, but the M.W. Stringer Grand Lodge was told of the meeting in Niagara that William Monroe Trotter and Du Bois was having. They wanted to make sure there was representation in the room. They paid for her to go. She came back and reported because they understood, like she understood, resistance required engagement. And engagement means sometimes you need to use the tools that you have.
Yeah.
Here you have a woman investigating cases, writing about it. She needed a gun in her purse.
Yeah. Derrick Johnson with us, folks. Congratulations on speaking today, the 109th Annual NAACP Convention. Give the instruction, and thanks you for shouting me out in the speech too. Why don't you, before we go, give the instruction we always give on the air, brother?
You know, take the pledge to vote, but more importantly, we need you to text the word NAACP to the number 40649. We will be contacting you so you can put a call into your U.S. Senator. NAACP, we're nonpartisan. We have no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, but on the issue of Kavanaugh, that if you depend on a black vote, it's our job to deny every black vote if you betray us.
That's right. You all hear that. That's some strong words. Yeah. Those of you running for office, our vote will be denied if you betray us. 40649, text NAACP.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to dealing with systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, Derrick did that. I hadn't heard that in the NAACP convention. We talked about ecological, you know, the war economy and this false moral agenda. We're one. All have to come at it different ways for different purposes. On this Kavanaugh, I said the other day, we can't let this just be a Roe versus Wade issue. It is that, but even it's not that. What about voting rights, 15th Amendment, 14th Amendment, Brown being settled law? And so we have to even challenge Democrats to ask the right questions and push in the right way. And I love Doc that he said, you can't vote for Kavanaugh and then come to us and say, well, I just did that to get elected. So you voted for somebody on a lifetime appointment, so you get elected for 6 years? No, that's not a fair deal.
And let's be clear. What's at stake is civil rights laws, but what the higher question is, the civil rights laws will be at jeopardy because it's a question of who will have superior rights and citizenship, individuals or corporations.
That's right.
Because the whole issue around civil rights is a tool that we use to stop corporations from exploiting people for cheap and free labor. The issue around Roe v. Wade is not about the right of a woman to choose. It is using a moral argument to galvanize votes to put people in office to dominate and control the mode of production and the cost of labor.
Yeah.
And the people behind it who call themselves religious as a pastor, guess who they're controlled by? The corporations. Because they want to get people in on that issue, but once they get in office, use their vote to lift up the corporation and take power from the people. And that's the kind of clear thinking that we have in Derrick Johnson, an understanding, a penetrating understanding of what's really at stake.
Very clear message to defeat hate vote. I commend you and the association for that. Everybody gets that. We're dealing with hatred, and what we can do, we can't always do everything. All of us can't be in every place at every time. All of us can't make every protest. Some of us aren't able to protest, but the one thing everybody can do is vote. And we can defeat this hatred by voting. Folks, text NAACP to 40649. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Derrick Johnson, President and CEO of the NAACP, and the Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, the second co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. Thank you. MIP at the NAACP.